Think about what it's like to be a kid, full of dreams, doing great at everything you try.
Yeah,
Now imagine that world suddenly hits, well, a kind of wall. A force you can't really understand, like a political earthquake that just changes everything.
right.
That's pretty much what happened to Ji-li Jiang. Her memoir, Red Scarf Girl, it just throws us right into the start of China's Cultural Revolution. Shanghai, 1966.
Hmm.
So in this deep dive, we're going to trace those first shockwaves of this period on Ji-li's life. We'll look specifically at how her own ambitions sort of crashed into this sudden wave of political ideology.
Yeah, and what's really striking, I think, is just how fast it happens. How the personal dreams of this, you know, really bright young girl get tangled up in these huge political currents.
Absolutely. And Ji-li, she isn't just like any student. She's a star.
Hmm.
But almost overnight, her whole path is changed by things completely outside her control.
Totally beyond her individual actions.
Yeah. I mean, before all this kicks off, Ji-li is basically on top of the world. She's this standout sixth grader, outstanding student, excellent young pioneer, and even the Da Zhang.
Which is the top student leader for the whole school.
Exactly, the top leader. And it wasn't just school stuff. She was skilled in martial arts, too. They even filmed her for some kind of demonstration.
Wow.
Then, totally out of the blue, this woman soldier shows up at her school from the Central Liberation Army Arts Academy.
Okay.
And this soldier, she puts Ji-li through these like flexibility tests right there in the gym, really pushing her limits.
And for Ji-li, this must have felt huge.
Oh, absolutely. It was an incredible moment for her. It lit this fire, this specific dream, becoming a performer with the Liberation Army.
And you have to think about the symbolism there. The Liberation Army, I mean, they represented heroism, the ideals of the new China under Chairman Mao. They were central to the revolution story.
Right?
For a young person, that's such a powerful image. Purpose, national pride, all of it. And wasn't there a family connection too? Her mother?
Yes. Her mother had been a performer, so it was this mix of, personal interest and this big national picture. She's picturing herself in the uniform, a hero contributing to China's liberation.
Touring the world, showcasing the new China.
Exactly. And then it gets even more exciting. She and three other students, Tang Chao, Wang Qi, and Yu Xiaofan, they get chosen to actually audition for the dance training class.
A huge deal.
The principal herself announces it, calls it this great honor for their school. Ji-li is just buzzing, imagining this future.
But that high doesn't last long, does it?
Ah.
Her father's reaction.
Oh, it's immediate. And the contrast is just, whoa, stark. Between her pure excitement and the deep unease from her father, it really flags those hidden tensions, those invisible forces at play.
Yeah.
It's such a jarring moment in the book. She shares this amazing news, and instead of smiles, she sees this deep pain in his eyes. Something she'd never seen before.
And he brings up this idea.
The political background investigation. He explains it's about examining their ancestors' class status, and then, bam, the bad news.
He tells her they wouldn't pass.
Just like that. This incredible dream she just started having. Shattered. She can't join the troop because of their family background.
And that concept, class status, it was everything then. It basically categorized people based on their family's position before the Communist Revolution.
So like landowners or wealthy families were bad.
Right, a bad class background.
Yeah.
Peasants, workers, they were good. And it wasn't just a label. It affected, well, everything. Education, jobs, even joining an arts academy like this. It was deeply woven into the fabric of society.
And her father, he barely explains it, just says it's very complicated that she wouldn't understand. Can you imagine being this bright kid, told your own family history stops you with no real explanation?
It's heartbreaking.
She's devastated, speechless at first, then just crying, worried about facing everyone at school. Her grandma even says, let her try, but her dad is terrified.
Terrified of the consequences. If she passed the audition but failed the political check, that could bring unwanted attention, expose their political problem, as he put it.
Yeah, he's clearly worried about the risk to the whole family.
It just shows how politics seeped into every corner of life. A kid's dream wasn't just about talent anymore. It was filtered through this rigid political lens. The father's reaction, while painful for Ji-li, came from knowing the real dangers.
Mm-hmm. And we also get this really lovely memory right before things get really heavy, these Saturday nights at their place.
Jiang Salon.
Yeah, Jiang Salon. Her mom's beef soup, grandma's steamed buns, the kids helping out. It sounds so warm, so full of life. Dad's theater friends, talented people, Uncle Zhu helping with her calligraphy.
vibrant evenings.
Yeah.
And that memory makes the next part even sadder, doesn't it?
It really does, because right after the audition news, Ji-li just withdraws, avoids her friends. She compares herself to their injured cat, Little White, just wanting to be left alone.
It shows that immediate isolating effect of finding out about the family's background. It changes how she sees herself, her place among her friends.
And then the whole atmosphere shifts, not just for her, but for everyone. The Destroy the Four Olds campaign begins.
Right. Presented as this vital new battle.
To protect communism by getting rid of old ideas, old culture, old customs, old habits. It sounds huge, all-encompassing.
It was a radical attempt to erase anything seen as pre-communist. And what's fascinating is seeing how this abstract political goal played out in very real ways, day to day, especially with the kids.
Oh, the kids jump right in. You see it immediately with Ji-li and her siblings, Ji-young and Ji-yin. Their usual Sunday thing, going to Grandpa Hong's bookstall for picture books.
A cherished routine. Monkey King, Snow White.
Yeah, in their cool alley with all the identical townhouses, that routine gets interrupted. Their friend An Yi comes rushing over.
Urging them to come see the campaign in action.
At the Great Prosperity Market.
So even something simple like getting books takes a back seat to this revolutionary duty.
And the scene they find is, well, quite something. Adults struggling to tear down the market sign. This big wooden sign, they're wrestling with it, trying to break it, and it just won't break.
Sounds like quite the struggle.
The crowd's yelling suggestions, stomp on it, get a truck to run it over. Finally, someone shows up with an axe.
The
A
axe.
few swings and crash. It finally breaks. And Ji-li and her friends, even though she says it's no more than a piece of wood, they feel this real sense of victory.
That feeling of triumph over something tangible, however small, is key to how these movements catch on, isn't it? It gives people, especially young people, a sense of doing something important, being part of something bigger.
Definitely. And they get totally inspired. They start spotting four-olds everywhere. Shop names like Good Fortune Photo Studio,
Innocent Child Toy Shop.
Peace Theater.
Yeah.
And they get really into suggesting new revolutionary names. Proletarian Photo Studio, Red Child Toy Shop, Revolution Theater. They genuinely think they're helping build this new life for China.
Their enthusiasm is palpable, but then you see the clash with the older generation.
Yeah, that generational gap is stark. The kids have absorbed the new ideology. They see the four-olds as bad. But Grandma, she's upset about the Great Prosperity Market sign.
For her, it's tied to tradition, luck, auspicious dates.
Exactly. She mentions how much it cost, how the owners thought the specific date they hung it brought them luck for decades. But Ji-young, he just shuts it down.
Using Chairman Mao's words.
Yeah, calls it superstition, profit-making, directly challenging his grandma's beliefs. They even talk about old customs, like fancy funerals, calling them wasteful old ideas holding China back.
It's that direct clash tradition versus the new revolutionary fervor right there in their living room.
Mm-hmm. And the kids are so proud of their red scarves. They see them as symbols of revolution, martyrdom almost. They even feel bad they were too young for earlier fights against the Japanese, Chiang Kai-shek.
So Destroy the Four Olds becomes their revolution, their chance to be soldiers fighting these rotten ideas.
Fighting ideas inside themselves, even. It shows how strong that pull was to be part of it, no matter how old you were.
The allure of participating was powerful.
But then, things take a darker turn. They witness a public shaming. A man targeted just for his clothes.
What was he wearing?
Bourgeois clothes. Tight, light brown pants and these two-tone shoes they called champagne shoes.
Wow. Just for that.
Just for that. It's this really vivid, uncomfortable scene. A boy with glasses gets up and denounces the clothes, calls them Western, bad for the revolution. Then they actually cut his clothes right there in public. They take scissors to his pants, cut them up the seams, and then slice up his shoes.
Oh, that's brutal. Public humiliation.
Totally. He's protesting, saying he bought them in a government store, but the boy just dismisses him. Says even government stores can have four-olds.
It shows how arbitrary it could be, how the campaign could be twisted to enforce conformity in even the smallest things. Items from state shops weren't safe. It highlights that irrational side of the fervor.
The poor guy is just standing there humiliated and his socks clothes ruined, and Ji-li, she feels this deep discomfort. She doesn't cheer with the others. She even makes eye contact with him just for a second.
That's a crucial moment.
It really is. A huge contrast to the cheering students. It feels like her initial excitement about the campaign starts to crack, replaced by unease, maybe even empathy for this stranger.
That difference between the crowd's reaction and her internal feeling, that's significant. It hints at her growing awareness of the human cost, the cruelty that could come with it, even with all the revolutionary spirit around. It raises that question about individual conscience, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this first look at Ji-li Jiang's early experiences, you see this bright kid whose dreams are just, well, crushed by this idea of political backgrounds.
Something completely beyond her control.
Right. And you also see her get swept up in the Destroy the Four Olds campaign, this huge push to remake society. But those later experiences, especially that public shaming, they introduce something really jarring, really disturbing.
Yeah, suggesting the road ahead is going to be much tougher than she probably imagined.
What's really striking is how fast these heavy political ideas crash into her personal life. Her whole understanding of the world is starting to shift, isn't it? Shaped by these intense encounters with ideology and its real, sometimes cruel effects.
It's a profound transformation happening very quickly.
Which leaves us with a big question for you to think about. How does that kind of youthful passion, that idealism, mesh with these very complex, often rigid political movements?
What are the unforeseen costs, personally and for society, when changes sweep through like that?
Exactly. And what other parts of everyday life, things that seem totally harmless, might suddenly become targets in that kind of climate? Definitely gives you something to mull over.
A lot to consider.
We'll leave you with that thought until our next deep dive.